Your soulmate doesn't want to be with you anymore. They have finally made a shocking decision to leave you for someone else. There are moments in life that arrive quietly. No thunder. No warning. No sign from the universe that everything you believed was about to change. You wake up expecting an ordinary day. The sun rises as it always has. Your phone sits beside your bed. The world continues moving, unaware that your heart is only minutes away from hearing words it may never fully recover from. You had spent so much time believing in this connection. You believed that soulmates were not just people who loved each other. They were two souls that had traveled through countless lifetimes searching for one another. You believed that no matter how difficult things became, no matter how much distance or misunderstanding stood between you, fate would always bring the two of you back together. That belief had carried you through sleepless nights. It carried you through unanswered messages, missed opportunities, and moments when you wondered if they still thought about you the way you thought about them. And perhaps they did. Perhaps they still do. But sometimes love and choice are not the same thing. The message arrived at exactly 11:11 p.m. You almost laughed when you noticed the time. For years, you had associated repeating numbers with signs from the universe. You had always seen 11:11 as confirmation that your soulmate was thinking about you. Tonight, however, it felt different. Your phone lit up. We need to talk. For simple words. For words capable of changing an entire future. Your heart immediately recognized the weight behind them. People rarely say, "We need to talk," when they have good news. For several moments, you simply stared at the screen. Part of you wanted to ignore it, to pretend the message didn't exist. But another part of you had spent too many years waiting to hear from them. Your fingers trembled as you replied. Is everything okay? 3 dots appeared instantly. Then disappeared. Then appeared again. It was as if they were fighting with themselves, searching for words that didn't exist. Finally, the message arrived. No. Nothing is okay anymore. You sat up in bed. Outside your window, the city remained unchanged. Somewhere, people were laughing. Somewhere, someone was falling in love for the first time. And somewhere between one heartbeat and the next, your world began falling apart. What's wrong? You typed. This time, their response took nearly 5 minutes. 5 of the longest minutes of your life. I've been trying to tell you this for a long time. I just didn't know how. Every possible scenario entered your mind. Were they sick? Were they moving away? Had something happened to their family? The truth never crossed your mind. Because some truths are too painful to imagine until they're standing directly in front of us. Tell me. You watched as the 3 dots appeared once more. I don't think we're meant to be together anymore. The room suddenly felt smaller. You read the sentence once. Twice. 10 times. Your brain refused to accept what your eyes were seeing. This couldn't be happening. Not after everything. Not after all the promises. Not after all the nights spent talking about the future. You immediately began typing. You're upset. Let's talk tomorrow. No. The response came instantly. I've made my decision. Decision. It was strange how a single word could feel like a knife. Love had always seemed like something that happened naturally. You meet someone. You connect. You fall. But leaving? Leaving is a decision. Leaving means waking up one morning and choosing a life that no longer includes someone who once meant everything. Why? That was all you could manage to ask. Their answer took longer this time. Long enough for hope to begin whispering inside your heart. Maybe this was temporary. Maybe they were afraid. Maybe they just needed time. Then the next message arrived. Because I met someone. Everything inside you stopped. Not metaphorically. Actually. For one impossible moment, it felt as though your heart had forgotten how to beat. You continued staring at the screen, waiting for another message to appear. Surely there had to be more. Surely there had to be an explanation. Instead, silence. Your hands felt cold. There are few pains in this world greater than realizing the person you've spent years choosing has finally chosen someone else. You thought back to every conversation. Every memory. Every moment they told you that no one could ever replace what the two of you shared. Had they meant it at the time? Or had you simply loved them enough to believe it? Who? It was a dangerous question. Some part of you knew that once you knew the answer, you would never unknow it. But pain is strange. Sometimes we would rather hold a terrible truth than remain trapped in uncertainty. Their reply came almost immediately. Someone who was there when you weren't. You read the message repeatedly. At first, it sounded like blame. Then regret. Then something else entirely. You wanted to defend yourself. To remind them of every time you had shown up. Every sacrifice. Every effort. But relationships are rarely destroyed by one catastrophic event. More often, they disappear slowly. Like a candle burning itself out in a dark room. Neither person notices the light fading until all that's left is smoke. I didn't know you felt alone. It was the most honest thing you could say. I know. Those two words hurt more than anything else. Because hidden inside them was an unbearable truth. They had needed you. And somehow, somewhere along the way, they had stopped believing you would come. Hours passed as the conversation continued. They told you about the person who had entered their life unexpectedly. Someone who listened. Someone who stayed. Someone who never made them question where they stood. You wanted to hate this stranger. But how do you hate someone for loving the person you love? How do you blame someone for offering comfort to a heart that had been hurting? By 3 a.m., you finally asked the question you had been avoiding all night. Do you love them? No response. 1 minute. 2 minutes. 10. Finally. I'm starting to. There it was. The sentence that would replay in your mind for months. Maybe years. You had always imagined heartbreak as something dramatic. You imagine shouting, tears, doors slamming. But real heartbreak is often quiet. It's sitting alone in the dark while your phone screen illuminates a future you never saw coming. It's realizing that the person who once called you home is now building one somewhere else. And perhaps the cruelest part of all? A small piece of you still wanted them to be happy, even if their happiness no longer included you. As dawn began creeping through your window, they sent one final message. I'm sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. But I can't keep pretending my heart hasn't changed. You stared at the words until the sun rose. People say soulmates are forever. But no one talks about the possibility that soulmates can arrive in our lives not to stay, but to transform us. Perhaps that was the real purpose of this connection. Not to teach you how to hold on, but to teach you how to let go. Little did you know, however, that this was not the end of the story. Because the shocking truth about the person they had chosen, the secret they had been hiding for months, would soon change everything. And when the truth finally came to light, both of you would be forced to ask the same terrifying question. What if they had made the biggest mistake of their life? Time has a strange way of behaving after heartbreak. Minutes feel like hours, yet entire weeks disappear without explanation. You continued waking up every morning expecting to find a message that would somehow undo everything. I made a mistake. Please forget what I said. It was always you. But your phone remained silent. Silence is cruel because it leaves room for imagination. And imagination, when combined with grief, becomes a dangerous thing. You began replaying every memory. The first time they told you they believed the universe had brought the two of you together. The late-night conversations that stretched until sunrise. The promises. Especially the promises. You remembered the night they said, "If I ever leave, it won't be because I stopped loving you. It'll be because I stopped believing I deserved your love." At the time, it had sounded romantic. Now, months later, it felt like a warning. By the seventh day, your friends had begun noticing the change in you. You need to stop checking your phone, one of them said gently. I can't. Why? Because hope is addictive. Because somewhere deep inside your heart, you still believe this story wasn't over. And perhaps, in some strange way, it wasn't. On the 9th day, something unexpected happened. Your phone rang. For one impossible second, your heart convinced itself it was them. It wasn't. It was an unknown number. Normally, you would have ignored it. But heartbreak changes people. It makes them answer calls they would never have answered before. Hello? For several seconds, no one spoke. Then a voice, quiet, uncertain, unfamiliar. I don't know if I should be calling you. You frowned. Who is this? The person on the other end hesitated. I'm the reason they left. The world suddenly became very, very still. Every emotion imaginable crashed into you simultaneously. Anger. Confusion. Curiosity. You had spent 9 days imagining this person. You pictured someone impossibly beautiful. Someone funnier, kinder, more successful. Someone who had effortlessly become everything you weren't. And now, somehow, they were calling you. "What do you want?" you asked, struggling to keep your voice steady. Another pause. "They don't know I'm calling." "That doesn't answer my question." Their voice softened. I think you deserve to know the truth." Those words immediately caught your attention. The truth about what? The truth about why they really left. Your heart began pounding. Over the next hour, this stranger told you a story you never expected to hear. They hadn't been trying to steal your soulmate. In fact, when they first met, they had no idea you existed. Your soulmate had never mentioned you. Not once. That revelation hurt more than you expected. They told me they had spent years waiting for someone who kept choosing everything except them. You closed your eyes. They said they loved someone who couldn't decide if they wanted a future together. That's not true. Maybe, the stranger replied quietly. But that's the story they were living. There is something uniquely painful about hearing yourself described through someone else's heartbreak. You wanted to interrupt. To explain. To defend yourself. But another part of you needed to hear this. Needed to understand how the person who once loved you had slowly become someone you no longer recognized. They talked about you all the time, the stranger continued. That surprised you. What? They still do. Your breath caught in your throat. They said you were the love of their life. The sentence hung in the air between you. Then why are they with you? The stranger laughed sadly. That's the question I've been asking myself. For the first time since the call began, you didn't know what to say. There's something else, they added. What? They cry about you. You felt your heart stop all over again. What? Almost every night. That didn't make sense. None of this made sense. If they loved you, if they missed you, if they cried over you, why leave? As if reading your thoughts, the stranger answered the question you hadn't asked. Because loving someone isn't always enough. You hated how true that sounded. The stranger explained that your soulmate had spent years hoping things would change. They had waited for timing to improve, circumstances to align, and fears to disappear. Eventually, waiting became exhausting. They told me something 3 nights ago. What? Their voice became almost a whisper. They said, I spent so much time hoping they would choose me that I forgot I could choose myself. You couldn't breathe. Because deep down, a part of you knew exactly what they meant. Relationships rarely end in a single moment. They end in 1,000 tiny moments. The unanswered messages. The postponed plans. The conversations that never happened. The feelings left unspoken. You suddenly found yourself wondering how many times they had almost told you they were slipping away. How many opportunities had both of you missed? Why are you telling me this? You finally asked. The stranger was quiet for a long time. Because I don't think they belong with me. Those words surprised you. What? They look at me the way people look at a photograph. You frowned. What does that mean? It means I'm here, but they're seeing someone else. The room felt smaller. I've seen them stare at their phone for hours. You immediately thought of the hundreds of messages you had exchanged over the years. I've heard them say your name in their sleep. Tears began forming in your eyes before you could stop them. And yesterday, the stranger continued, they accidentally called me by your name. The silence that followed felt endless. I think they're trying to move on, the stranger said softly. I just don't think they've succeeded. For the first time since the conversation began, you felt something dangerous. Hope. You should know something else, they said. What? They're getting on a plane tomorrow. Your heart skipped a beat. Where are they going? To your city. Everything inside you froze. Why? I don't know. They wouldn't tell me. That wasn't entirely true. Both of you knew exactly why. There are some distances that airplanes cannot measure. The distance between two people who love each other but cannot seem to make it work. The distance between who someone used to be and who they have become. The distance between goodbye and one last chance. Before ending the call, the stranger said something you would never forget. If they knock on your door tomorrow, don't ask them why they left. What should I ask? A long pause. Ask them why they came back. The line went dead. You sat alone in silence, staring at your reflection in the dark screen of your phone. Outside, the world continued exactly as it had the day before. Cars passed. People laughed. The stars remained unchanged. Yet somehow, everything was different. Because for the first time in 9 days, your story no longer felt finished. And somewhere, thousands of feet above the clouds, a person who had shattered your heart was preparing to see you again. The only question was this. Were they coming back to say goodbye one final time? Or were they coming back to tell you they had made the biggest mistake of their life? You spent hours sitting beside the window, watching darkness slowly surrender to dawn. Every passing car made your heart race. Every notification sound from your phone, even from unrelated apps, felt like a possibility. They were coming back. After everything that had happened, after the tears, the silence, and the goodbye that had seemed so final, they were coming back. But why? That question repeated endlessly in your mind. At 6:13 a.m., your phone vibrated. A single message. Can we meet? No explanation. No greeting. Just 4 words. You stared at the screen for nearly 5 minutes before replying. Where? Their response came immediately. The place where it all began. Your heart sank. There was only one place that could mean. Years ago, before life had become complicated, before timing and fear had built walls between the two of you, there had been a small cafe on the corner of a quiet street. That was where you first met. That was where they had once smiled and said, I have a feeling I'm going to know you for the rest of my life. Funny how life works. Sometimes it gives us memories that become too painful to revisit. At exactly 10:00 a.m., you found yourself standing outside the cafe. Very little had changed. The sign was older now. The paint had faded slightly. Yet somehow, seeing it again felt like stepping into another lifetime. You almost turned around. Part of you knew this meeting had the power to heal something. Another part feared it would destroy whatever remained. Then the door opened. And there they were. For a moment, neither of you moved. Heartbreak had changed both of you. They looked tired. Not physically. Emotionally. Like someone who had spent months fighting a battle no one else could see. You came, they said quietly. You asked me to. A sad smile appeared on their face. You're still giving short answers when you're hurt. And you're still pretending to notice things too late. The word surprised both of you. For the first time, they looked away. Some things never change. No, you said softly. Some things do. Silence. The kind that only exists between two people who once knew each other better than anyone else in the world. Eventually, they gestured toward a table near the window. Sit with me? Against your better judgment, you did. For several minutes, neither of you spoke. Finally, they broke the silence. I owe you an apology. Which one? They blinked. There are multiple? You laughed softly, a sound that surprised you as much as it surprised them. There's leaving. There's choosing someone else. There's disappearing for 9 days. Pick whichever apology feels most urgent. For the first time that morning, they smiled. I missed that. What? The way you use humor when you're trying not to cry. Your expression immediately changed. You don't get to say things like that anymore. The smile disappeared from their face. I know. Another silence settled between you. Finally, they took a deep breath. I didn't come here to hurt you again. Then why did you come? They looked down at their hands. I came because I realized something. You waited. I spent so much time trying to convince myself that leaving was the right decision that I never stopped to ask why it hurt so much. You felt your heartbeat quicken. They're a good person, they continued. They've been kind to me. Patient. Understanding. Then why are you here? Their eyes finally met yours. Because every time they smiled at me, I caught myself wishing it was you. You immediately looked away. Don't do this, you thought. Don't give me hope unless you intend to stay. I spoke to them yesterday. Your head snapped up. You know? They told me they called you. There was no anger in their voice. Only exhaustion. What did they say? Enough. They nodded slowly. They always did have a habit of telling the truth. The conversation paused as a server placed 2 coffees on the table. Neither of you had ordered. They remembered, you whispered. The server smiled. You always ordered the same thing. After all these years. Somehow, that hurt more than it should have. They told me something before I got on the plane, your soulmate said quietly. What? They said, if you're getting on a plane to see someone you supposedly stopped loving, then maybe you never stopped loving them at all. You didn't know how to respond. Because what do you say to someone who broke your heart while admitting theirs broke too? So why did you leave? You finally asked. Their eyes filled with tears almost immediately. Because I was tired. Tired of what? Tired of loving someone who seemed afraid to build a life with me. The honesty in their voice made it impossible to argue. I waited for years, they continued. Years. Each word landed like a confession. I kept telling myself that eventually things would change. That eventually we'd stop almost being together and actually be together.